Hello, my friend. I'm Dr. William Hart. Just this morning, I finished a consultation with a 64-year-old patient named Martin. He looked at me gently, clutching the fabric cap in his hand, and said with a hesitant tone, "Doctor, I've known I have diabetes for 5 years now, but I don't want to bother my children, and I don't want to take too many medications. A friend told me to boil pandan leaves and drink the tea every morning, so I cut my insulin dose in half. I felt fine, until last week when I fainted while watering my garden." I sat in silence for a few seconds after he said that. Have you ever felt that way before, knowing deep down that you may not be on the right path, but not quite sure where or how to turn around? If you're living with diabetes, especially after the age of 50, then today's video is a heartfelt message I want to share with you. A conversation about the common mistakes people make when self-managing diabetes and how we can avoid them before it's too late. Dear friend, I once asked one of my older patients this simple question: "Why did you stop your medication without calling me first?" He looked at me, smiled gently, and said, "I didn't want to bother the doctor. And honestly, I don't like anyone telling me what to do. I've lived alone for a long time. I figured I could take care of myself." And you know what? I understood that feeling. As the years pile on, so does our pride. You've lived through countless ups and downs, carried your family through hard times, and weathered both minor and serious illnesses, all without needing help from anyone. So now when diabetes shows up as a new companion, why wouldn't you handle it yourself? I've heard hundreds, maybe even thousands of similar reasons over the past 30 years in practice. Each person has their own story, but deep down, I think it often comes down to a fear of becoming dependent. Let me paint you a picture. You've been living an independent, peaceful life. Then suddenly your doctor gives you a list of medications. You're told to check your blood sugar every day, to eat on schedule, to avoid certain foods. Each follow-up visit brings new numbers that confuse or frustrate you. It feels like you've lost control over your own body. And so in an attempt to reclaim a sense of control, many people begin to adjust things on their own. Cutting back on meds just a bit, eating a favorite dish one day and making up for it by skipping the next meal. Trying a herbal remedy they heard from a friend instead of asking the doctor. I remember a patient named Martha, 67, from Kansas. She once told me with full sincerity, "Doctor, I know I'm not an expert, but if I don't understand my own body, who does?" That sentence stayed with me for a long time. You see, living with diabetes, especially after age 50, isn't just about treating a disease. It's about learning to become friends with your body again. And sometimes that feels like it threatens our sense of pride, because you've spent your whole life being the caregiver. Now being told what to eat, when to take medicine, it can feel like you're slowly losing the identity you have built for yourself. But my friend, there's a fine line between independence and endangering yourself. I'm not against taking initiative. In fact, I deeply respect it, because it's those who are proactive and informed who often manage their diabetes best. But initiative must go hand in hand with understanding. If your self-care is based on gut feelings, hearsay, or a desire not to bother the doctor, then it's no longer care, it's a gamble. One thing I often tell my patients is this: taking care of your health doesn't mean giving up control. It means learning to partner with your body and making the best decisions together. If you feel your doctor doesn't understand you, speak up. If you want to explore natural remedies, ask with curiosity. If you wish to reduce medication, that might be possible, but do it under safe-guided monitoring. Dear friend, I understand the conflict. The desire to stay strong while not wanting to be dependent. The longing for freedom while dreading the label of a patient. But I also want you to know, taking charge doesn't mean going it alone. You can be strong and still accept support. You can be capable and still reach out. Just think about it. You've journeyed with your body for over 50 years. Now that it needs you the most, don't abandon it to fight alone. And don't hesitate to ask for help from those of us who have dedicated our lives to understanding health, people like me. Have you ever adjusted your meds on your own? Tried a home remedy without consulting anyone? Felt like you could handle things only to realize it might not be safe after all? If you have, you're not alone. And I hope this video can be a gentle nod from me to you that maybe it's time we start again, this time with clarity and, more importantly, with kindness toward ourselves. Dear friend, I've lost count of how many times I've sat across from an older patient and heard them say, "Doctor, I thought I was doing the right thing." I remember one case vividly. Linda, 65 years old, a cheerful, independent woman living alone in Arizona. She came into my clinic feeling tired, sluggish, and with a slightly slowed heart rate. I asked, "Are you still taking your diabetes medications regularly?" She nodded a little uneasy and replied, "Well, I stopped 2 weeks ago. My blood sugar looked low, so I thought maybe I didn't need the meds anymore." And guess what? Her blood sugar was fluctuating wildly dangerously, and her heart was already reacting to that metabolic imbalance. The first mistake I see all too often is stopping medication when blood sugar readings look good. Many people assume my glucose is stable now. Maybe I don't need the meds. But here's what you may not realize. Those good numbers didn't come out of nowhere. They're the result of your medication doing its job. Stopping it abruptly, especially insulin, can send your blood sugar soaring again before you even feel it. And sometimes the price isn't just a bad reading. It's a heart attack. It's a stroke. The second mistake that deeply concerns me is replacing medication with herbal remedies or folk treatments. Now, let me be clear, I respect natural approaches. I truly do. I believe in healthy eating, herbal teas, meditation, gentle movement. But I can't support patients who abandon medication and instead drink bitter melon juice every morning or take cinnamon powder at night just because someone told them it worked wonders. One of my patients, Robert, age 70, stopped his insulin after a friend swore by a no-drug diabetes cure. 3 weeks later, he was rushed to the ER with a blood sugar level of 510 mg/dl. He was in diabetic ketoacidosis, a life-threatening emergency. The third common mistake is reducing your medication without adjusting your diet or activity level. For example, some people think I ate less today. Maybe I don't need my meds. But what seems like a light meal might still spike your glucose, especially if it includes hidden carbs like white rice bread or sweet fruits. Others may increase their physical activity, but keep taking the same dose and suddenly experience hypoglycemia in public. Another patient, Mr. Harris, 66, once told me, "Doctor, I'm afraid of being dependent on medications. I don't want to take them for the rest of my life." I placed a gentle hand on his shoulder and said, "You're not dependent on the medication. You're giving your body a life vest to stay afloat in dangerous waters. And when your own legs are strong enough to swim, I'll be the one to help you decide when to let go." You see, I don't blame anyone for wanting to take charge. I don't blame Linda. I don't blame Robert. I don't blame Mr. Harris, because they're good people just trying to regain control over their lives. But the cost they paid didn't come from bad intentions. It came from missing the right knowledge at the right moment. Let me help you picture this. You're driving a car that has served you well for over 50 years. A warning light comes on. You could cover it with duct tape or spray some air freshener to mask the smell. But deep down, you know the car needs attention under the hood. Your body's the same. Diabetes isn't a flickering light you can ignore. It's a complex system that needs care from the roots. And to do that properly, you can't rely solely on a friend's story or a YouTube video. You need a plan. You need someone who understands you and understands your condition. Dear friend, if you've ever stopped your meds just to feel lighter, if you've believed in a 30-day miracle cure, if you've quietly lowered your dosage to feel less tired, then please just remember this one thing. Self-treatment isn't wrong, but acting on instinct without knowledge, that's not treatment. That's gambling with your health. Have you ever made one of these mistakes while trying to manage your diabetes alone? If so, I invite you to share your story in the comments. I believe your story won't just bring you peace, it may help someone else who's walking the same path. Stop just in time before it's too late. Dear friend, if you're still watching this part of the video, I believe you're not just concerned about diabetes, you're genuinely concerned about yourself. And before we go any further, I want to say this to you. No one understands your body better than you do. But at the same time, no one is more vulnerable to misleading beliefs than you. After over 30 years of caring for people over 50, I've come to one important realization. Taking care of your health after 50 doesn't mean handing over full control to your doctor, but it also doesn't mean pushing your doctor aside and relying on gut feelings. It's a partnership, you and your doctor walking this journey together, hand in hand. Let me give you a picture. Imagine you're rowing a small boat across a wide river called diabetes. You might be able to row it alone if you have the map, the experience, and clear skies. But when the currents start to swirl or fog rolls in, that's when you'll need a guide, or at least a lighthouse. A good doctor, the right one, can be that lighthouse. So how do we take ownership without becoming reckless? First, don't hide what you're doing from your doctor. One of my patients, Mr. Daniel in his 60s, had been drinking cinnamon powder tea and taking herbal remedies every morning, but never told me. It wasn't until he experienced a severe blood sugar crash that we retraced his habits. He admitted I thought those things were natural, so I didn't think I had to mention them. But you see, it's often those little things that cause big consequences. If you're taking anything extra herbs, supplements, homemade remedies, please tell your doctor. Not to be scolded, but so we can work together. Because your body doesn't label things as Western medicine or Eastern herbs. It just reacts to everything you put into it. Second, track your body and write things down. One of the most empowering things you can do is keep a health journal. What foods tend to spike your glucose? What happens to your levels on days you exercise? What foods leave you feeling sluggish? How does sleep affect your numbers? One of my patients, Lucy, 68, once brought a notebook full of handwritten notes. I looked at it and said, "You're doing better than most health apps out there." Thanks to that journal, we discovered she was consistently crashing around 4 p.m. right after her walks when she hadn't had a snack. A simple adjustment in her routine and things improved dramatically. Third, learn to ask questions. When your doctor prescribes a new medication, don't just nod. What are the possible side effects? When should I stop taking this? If I improve my lifestyle, could I lower the dosage? You know what, I admire patients who ask questions. Not because they doubt me, but because they're taking responsibility for their health. You have the right to ask, and you should ask. And finally, it's not always about doing more. Sometimes it's about doing things better. I had a patient, Teresa, who exercised an hour a day, followed a strict diet, and still couldn't stabilize her blood sugar. We sat down together and reviewed her entire schedule: meals, sleep, meds. Turns out she was over-exercising right after meals, not resting enough, and her medication timing was inconsistent. Once we made a few small corrections, her health turned around. No extra effort, just better strategy. Dear friend, living with diabetes doesn't mean you have to become a medical expert, but you do need to become an expert in your own body. You need to know what makes you feel strong, what wears you down, when to step back, and when to reach out for help. You don't have to face this condition alone. Let your doctor be your partner. Let knowledge be your compass. And above all, let self-compassion be your fuel to keep moving forward steadily and safely. Dear friend, if you've stayed with me this far, perhaps something inside you has been gently stirred, maybe a quiet worry, a lingering doubt, or simply the realization. So I'm not the only one who's ever made mistakes in managing my diabetes. And you're absolutely right, you are not alone. I've met countless patients, over 50 people who care deeply about their health. People who want so badly to get better, but who, in the absence of clear information or with too much trust in instinct alone, have unknowingly put their bodies through silent experiments. Taking non-prescribed medications, stopping insulin when they felt better, trying herbal remedies passed on from a friend of a friend. All of it comes from something deeply human, the desire to heal. But healing doesn't mean doing everything all at once. Healing means doing the right things your body actually needs, with understanding and with guidance. I'm not here to blame you. I'm here to remind you. Even if you've made mistakes, you can always begin again. After 50, health no longer comes from pushing harder. It comes from being more awake. Awake enough to recognize what suits your body. Awake enough to stop when something feels wrong. And awake enough to open up when someone can help you at the right time. I once had a patient, Mr. Steve, 67 years old. He said something to me that I still carry with me. I used to think I knew my body until it surprised me. You see, even the strongest among us sometimes need someone to walk beside them to remind them no one is born knowing everything. But everyone has the power to learn to grow and to live better. And today could be the day you begin that journey. It doesn't have to be a big step. It could simply be taking a few minutes each day to really listen to your body, asking questions when you're unsure, and having the courage to pause when you realize you're heading in the wrong direction. I invite you to share in the comments. What's one mistake you made in managing your diabetes that, looking back, you wish you had handled differently? And if this video meant something to you, please don't forget to hit like, subscribe to Graceful Health Journey, and share this video with someone who might need it today. Because sometimes one simple video can change someone's entire health journey tomorrow. I'm Dr. William Hart, and I'll always be here to walk beside you to help you live well, live fully after 50. See you in the next story.